I would first try some sounds just for you to say if it's too loud or not enough loud. So you can I can just that's okay for you? Is that okay also?
いやー、マリはダンスをしていました。
Or should I? It's okay? Louder? Okay. So, I'm sorry for this delay. We'll start the course on prosody and emotion. And I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me for speaking about that. The course is organized in kind of four parts. First, we will start exploring the relation between what different kind of emotional or affective expressions and the voice parameters. So we'll first try to describe what are these kind of voice parameters, where they come from, what difference we can make between these voice parameters, and then we'll see what they mean, how they are perceived, and how we can categorize them, possible. And then we'll discuss what we can understand under the term emotional expression, and what does it mean for communication, for speech communication. And then we'll finish with cross-cultural comparison to see if such kind of comparison, how we can make such kind of comparison, and what are the problems when we can try to compare two cultures, what does that mean, etc. And especially we'll review some kind of perception tests that allow us to make such kind of comparison. For the 4th day, we will make some exercise to apply what I will describe. And there is two kind of exercises. First one are how to measure these vocal settings in the signal, in the speech signal. And for that, we'll use Pratt. And I hope most of you have a computer and Pratt installed on the computer. And I have given an archive when there is sounds and a few transcripts that we will use in the second part of this course. Then tomorrow we'll try to apply this kind of measurements to modification of the sound using that also, and then we'll see how we can use that to make some perception tests. Of course, if you have any questions during the course, you can just interrupt me. I would also stress that this course has no definitive answers on many points. There are many points that are research questions. I may propose some solutions, but they are not definitive and raise more problems than solutions. So I will first start with showing you a set of samples of what can be an emotional expression in voice. You will see that some of these emotions are just voice, others are on speech, and that raises a set of difficulty because there is competition between speech prosody and emotional prosody, and then it's not exactly the same thing. So the most basic kind of emotion we can hear in voice are such kind of things. It's not a human voice, it's an animal voice, but the meaning is exactly the same whatever the mammals that produce such kind of thing. It's a very aggressive thing, and we'll see that it's quite universal code. You can find other kind of voice settings for human.
Ah! Ah! Yeah! Yeah! Just left for a great party today!
Okay. The voice quality is very similar to previous voice quality we had heard on just voice, but it also carry lexical meaning. And this one also carry a lexical meaning even if you don't understand it because it's in Japanese.
いやー、マリーはダンスをしていました。
With a special voice quality. Okay? And these differences in voice quality and intonation variation do express difference. The last one we have just heard is maybe difficult for you to decode, but if you see the man who speaks that, it will be very simple to understand what he means.
いやー、マリーはダンスをしていました。
Okay? It's an expression of politeness, a typical expression of politeness in Japanese, and we'll come back later to that, but it's, I think, a good example of that, of the fact that emotional expression or expressive speech is a whole, and it is sound, voice, and multimodal characteristics. And we cannot avoid that because when people communicate, they communicate by all means, by a set of complex settings, and you cannot just look at one thing to understand the world. You have to look at everything. Okay? And finally, I will show this one, which is a very complex kind of expression.
A banana.
But I think it's difficult to understand if you can listen.
A banana.
The lexical meaning has no importance. It's a kind of
A banana.
caricatural expression of seduction, seductive voice. So today we'll try to describe the acoustic feature of such kind of expressions, and we'll see how we can try to measure these kind of features. So, but the acoustic feature of voice. Okay. So we'll start with the vocal apparatus, which is very important in understanding what kind of voice quality we had. And one of the main things that is generally not described in the phonetic quality is the subglottal tract, I don't know the English term, in English. Oh, the lungs. Okay, so this is what produces the air stream, and the way they are compressed or depressed is very important to have all this kind of voice quality. So it all starts here, then it goes through the larynx here, or vocal folds, which are the production where you produce the source of noise for speech. Most generally, it's a periodic sound, which happens in a periodic vibration of the vocal folds, and then this noise is modulated by the vocal tract. Here, the oral vocal tract or the nasal one, depending on the articulation you make. This commenting of one source and a filter of this source has given rise to a model which is called a source filter model. And one of the most famous one is Rilliard model, the LF model, which we will review later. So the source is the vocal folds. Here is a view of the vocal folds. You have here the cartilage that composes the larynx, and the vocal folds just are placed here and may change the length, their strength, and their thickness. They may be very thick or very thin. And after the larynx, the airstream, when passing through the vocal folds, traverses the oral cavity, where mainly the tongue, but also the lips changes and make different kind of resonances to rise to the final voice. So, if we look at the source, we have a set of phonation types. Okay, and for example, it has been very well described by John Lever in a book of 1980, and also by a more recent paper from Christophe D'Alessandro, where you can find different origin for different kind of phonation types. First, you have the different way the vocal fold may vibrate. They may vibrate in the most usual one, the modal type of vibration, where the vocal folds vibrate in just a periodic way. If they are shorter and more lax, they will vibrate in different very low settings, and it will produce a creaky voice. We'll see example later. If on the contrary they are more dense and thin, they will vibrate in a higher, with a higher pitch, and give a falsetto voice. It's different kind of mechanisms that give rise to vocal folds vibrations. Then this vibration may happen in aperiodical features. They are not necessarily produced with exactly periodic, with exact timing. Sometimes they may vibrate irregularly. For example, they may vibrate like that, or they may vibrate like in a double period. Like there is many different kind of things they can do, but it's irregular. And another way to have irregularity in speech is to have noise. When the airstream passes through the vocal fold, it produces a noise. When something like that, just a noise, which is the breath noise. Finally, there is another dimension of phonation, which is the opposition between lax and tense vocal folds. And the last one is related to the effort you put when you are producing a sound with the vocal fold, so the voice strength. It's also sometimes called the vocal effort. We'll show now short videos that show example of these kind of different kind of phonations. So this is a view of the vocal fold from the top, that someone put a small camera that is on a flexible tube through the nose onto just on the top of the vocal folds. Okay? If it enters through the nose and goes there, just to look at the vocal folds here. And then we can see the vocal folds vibrate. So here is the vocal folds, and they are open. You can see that they are very short, so not tense at all, very relaxed. This is a normal way of vibration for the vocal folds. You see they are longer and they vibrate on the wall of the length. And here's the falsetto voice, so they are even longer, very tense, and they will have a very fast vibration. So that's the three modes of vibration of the vocal folds. Okay. What? Like that? Okay. It works? It still works? Okay, sorry. So here is a whispery and then a brassy voice. Whispery and brassy voice. Whispery is just the glottis is open and there is an airflow that goes through the glottis and that produces a noise. But there is no vibration of the vocal folds. Yes, sorry. And the brassy voice. You can see the vocal folds vibrate, but they are not in contact. They don't touch each other, they just vibrate like that. So, kind of different noise. And then there is a set different kind of voice that are generally coined harsh voices, but they may be produced with very, very different settings, articulatory settings. They are not necessarily distinguished auditorily. This one are different because they have very different pitch, but it's all harsh voices. Very low pitch harsh voices. When you almost don't see the vocal folds because they are hidden by the epiglottis that is very constrained. So, another more tense, yeah. Very, very tense harsh voice. Okay. So you see, there is a great variability in the kind of voice quality you can produce with the glottis. It's only with the glottis. Okay. The last dimension are the tensions of the vocal folds and the voice strengths. Tension goes from a very relaxed voice to a very tense voice. And I'll give some examples.
He has left for a great party today.
And of course a very relaxed voice is very not loud at all. So if you get again.
He has left for a great party today.
It's not, do you still hear me? Yeah. Louder.
She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today.
Oh, that's wonderful. Obrigado. Okay.
She has left for a great party today.
Sorry for that.
She has left for a great party
This
today.
one is not.
She has left for a great party today. She has left for
She
a
has
great party
left
today.
for a great party today.
Okay, so there is a very clear difference between the loudness of the sound, but it's mainly due to the tension of the vocal folds. And another dimension.
She has left for a great party today.
So soft.
She has left for a great party today. 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 She has left for a great party today.
Okay, so this is linked to the vocal effort, so to the compression of air under the vocal folds, etc. And both of these dimensions have a huge impact on the intensity that is produced on the sounds. But we'll see later that it's not as simple as just intensity. Then, once the airstream crosses the vocal fold, it goes through the vocal. Then it goes through the vocal folds, vocal tract, sorry, and the vocal tract is mainly used to produce speech, so articulation. And generally, when we speak about voice quality, we don't look at the voice quality linked to articulation because it's used for the lexical distinction between vowels, for example. But there is general settings that can change such kind of global voice quality in the vocal tract, and there is such kind of extralinguistic supralaryngual, it's above the larynx settings. The first kind of things is the shapes of the lips. You can spread your lips like that and speak like that. You can make a smile and speak like that, and you can also speak like that.
She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today.
Okay, with a protrusion.
She has left for a great party today.
With a smile.
Il est sorti avant le jour.
And with lips restriction. Sorry, I don't have any example in English. You can also open your velum and let the airstream go through the nose, whatever you are speaking, and then it will produce a nasalized speech.
She has left for a great party today.
Okay, and you can also speak with the jaw open, or on the contrary, with the jaw very tight, like that.
She has left for a great party today.
She has left for a great party today.
And on the other side of the vocal tract, you can change the position of the larynx, and it will reduce the size of the vocal tract, and then change the size of the cavity and then of the resonances. So you can have a short larynx, a short vocal tract, normal one, and a long vocal tract.
She has left for a great party today.
She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today.
Okay. I have tried. What? Or do I record that? Lengthen. For example, you can put the larynx down, or you can do like that. You can lengthen on both ends. Generally, these kind of settings are not used alone. For example, if you put your larynx down, it's usually used with a lower fundamental frequency, so with vocal folds that vibrate at a lower rate. And generally it's made with a given aim to, for example, to appear bigger and to have a lower voice quality. If I want to be like that, very strong, I don't only give a lower vibration, but I also lower the larynx, etc., etc. So if we want to study a given settings, just the lengthening, just the change of vocal fold, etc., we had to resort to synthesis model of these voice qualities, and this allows to have very precise control over what we are doing and to have a better understanding of these kind of things. So these models are based on mostly on source filter model. So you have a model of the source and then you filter this source over something that resembles the vocal tract, and they are based on the description of what is the how is the glottal flow when it is modulated by the vocal fold. So here you have a film of the vocal fold that vibrates very slowly. Okay, it's a very fast camera that had all the opening and short closing of the vocal fold, and then it's a measures using an electroglottograph. It's a measure of the position of these vocal folds. An electroglottograph, I will go back to this later, is two electrodes placed over each side of the larynx that measure an electric current that goes through the vocal fold. If the vocal folds are open, there is no current. If they are closed, there is more electricity that passes. So you can measure these differences. Okay, and then if you take the derivative of this measure, you can have a very precise measure of when the vocal folds open or close. The reverse, they open there, they close there. Okay. So from this they derived the synthesis model. There is many different kind of model, and you have a few references here. The references are all at the end of the handouts if you want to have them. The most known is the Rilliard model, which describes a curve like that, which is the glottal flow, the flow of the air that passes through the vocal folds. Okay, and so when the vocal folds open, the flow becomes more strong. When the vocal fold closes, the flow stops. While it's closed, there is no air, and then it starts again. From this model, they derive a set of coefficients, or parameters, that are very important for the description of the voice qualities. The most important one is the fundamental frequency, which depends on the time between two vibrations. Then there is the open quotient, OQ. This open quotient measures the time of the opening of the vocal folds compared to the whole duration of the fundamental frequency. And there is also other kind of parameters, but which are less important, and they are used to make some differences between, for example, tense or lax voices. Okay, and this kind of model are very powerful to reproduce the expressive capacity of the voice system. And I'll show you a few examples of what you can do with such kind of model. So this is the first. I bring you last version of a model we developed at my lab, which is a graphic tablet. And using this graphic tablet, you can control the different parameters of such kind of model. The video on the left was exactly the same model, but controlled with a glove. and you will see that it can have a very expressive behavior. So change of pitch and change of the tension. Okay, so it's very simple. There is no change after the glottis, just the same vowel, but just by changing the pitch and the tension, you can have very, very expressive things. Okay, and so they develop also a system which is used to sing, and they make some concerts. They can have a voice for a tenor, a voice for a soprano, etc., which have different kind of vocal folds and vocal tract also. And then they control this and also such kind of vowels to produce, to sing. Okay. And I think the most impressive demonstration of what you can do is maybe that one, if you like Indian music. So he plays with two hands, one hand define the pitch, and the second hand change the vowel. Yes. Stop here. If you are interested, you can have the video. Such kind of model, why is it interesting for us? I think it's very interesting because it can help us to understand what's behind this difference of voice quality, and I will try to show you how we can apply this to difference in voice quality. So I have it there. You can't see it for the moment, but sorry. Okay. So if I like that, I can change just the pitch, and if I push stronger, I change the strength of the sound. Okay, and then no, it's just the strengths. It don't change the settings of the vocal tract, but yeah, yes, it changed many things to change the strengths of the vocal folds.
Ei, som 2. I'm sorry.
I was just asking if as much as we go from left to right, for example, it changes the tone of us, like and then and goes like this, and then when we just go down, but it's just a changing in the tension of the vocal folds.
That's one point which is very nice with such kind of model, that you precisely control everything you do. When I press like it, I just change the strength of the sound, so the tension and the power of the airstream, but nothing else. No, the rate of vibration doesn't change. It's exactly the same fundamental frequency, and the vocal settings, the vocal tract, is exactly at the same position. So all the differences you hear are just due to a small parameter, which is the tension of the vocal folds. So I think it's a very good model to understand what can produce such kind of differences.
So that everything is modeling in the tension of the vocal folds.
The
Is
tension,
that it? I mean, synthetically speaking, at least.
it's a model, so the model is not
All right.
reality, and the reality is more complex than source filter model, of course.
But you changed the clip you just showed. They changed the vowel. That's the upper.
Yes, I will go to the change of vowel later. Just let's introduce the model, and then we'll see. We construct all the complete vocal tract. Okay. So, just there is two dimensions for the vocal folds. It's not a complete model. For example, there is no breathy noise in this model. It's the fundamental frequency and the strength. Okay, and then with my second hand, but I have only two hands, so I have to put it down. I can change the vowel here. So. Okay, it's synthetic vowel, so it sounds synthesis. Okay, obviously, if I do something like that, it sounds less synthetic. Okay, because you never produce a vowel completely flat and like it's not possible. So, okay, these things has something which is called voice factory. Using that, I can have only the vocal folds without vocal tract. I just cut the head, okay, and it produces. There is the complete vocal folds. Okay. So here is just the vocal folds without vocal tracts. Yes, you cut the head. Okay, so I can like that, and I can slightly change the tension. Okay, then it works. Then I can add the amplitude. And then I will re-put the head, but then I will put it formant by formant. Okay, you know the notion of formant is okay for everybody, or yeah? So this is just the first formant. There is no formant then. The man who developed this is the man who plays the thing and is very skilled with his hand. I am not like him. So if I add the formant, sorry. change something in the voice quality. And then if I change the vowel, it changes slightly the first formant. Okay? But it's very difficult to understand the vowel with only one formant, as you know. So I had the second formant. And then I change the vowel. It's slightly better with two ferments, but yes, still it's difficult to understand. So I add a third one. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is only the third formant. There is only. It's not the three first. It's only the third one. So, how do you do to have the three? Okay, this is formant 1 plus 2. I think. Okay. This is much better. And then I can add the third one. I do that. And you can make this famous difference in French between U and OU, the EU differences that you cannot make with only two ferments. Yeah, it's synthesis, but okay. Okay, and if I put all the ferments, I will have back my voice. Okay. So I'm sorry, but I need to see the complete things to continue. A second thing it produces is, and I think just you can have a thing, it's voice settings that it defines the specificities of different kind of humans. For example, a woman, a soprano woman singer, or a male bass or tenor singer, which has obviously different kind of vocal tracts and vocal folds. They have specific vocal folds to be able to sing the different kind of voice. So here it's a tenor voice, so normal male voice. I can select a bass. Okay. Or on the contrary, a soprano. Oh, this one is the beast. So you have a very long vocal fold, vocal tract, sorry, and very large vocal fold, so very low voice. This one is just not voice, but it's exactly the same model. You can just make rhythmic things like that. Okay. So these kind of things allow to separate what can be produced with the vocal fold, what can be produced with the vocal tract, and the influence they have on the two. Okay. go back to the presentation. So we have seen that there is very different kind of voice qualities, and these voice quality can be described phonetically in a quite precise kind of way. Most typical one is the work of flavor, and then we will want to measure that. And as soon as we want to measure the voice quality, there will be a good question, say how to measure that. And obviously there is many different kind of procedure to measure the voice quality. The first one we have already seen is to use a camera through the nose to see what is the state of the glottis and how it behaves. Okay, it's like that, and I have no photo here for the way you have to do this, but it's very difficult because you have to put a camera inside the vocal tract, and obviously it's not very natural. Another thing is to have electropalatography that can measure the position of the articulator inside the mouth, and you can do it more modernly with electromagnetic articulograph. And I think last week there is a presentation of a work that uses such kind of things. And if you can see the photo, it's quite invasive. Even if it's called non-invasive things, you have this thing around you, and you have to put small coils on the tongue if you want to record the tongue, or on the lips, etc. So these measures are quite intrusive, but they are the only one. If you want to get very precise, the measure of the articulators. So it's for those that are interested in the articulatory description of the voice quality. If you are not interested in such kind of things, you can use echography or electromyography. Echography is the same for the baby. So unless you put it there, and it gives an image of the tongue, so you can extrapolate the position of the tongue during your articulation. And electromyography is to place electrode on muscles, and from that you can record the activity of these muscles. There is muscles in the vocal folds are muscles, and there is muscles that control the vocal folds, but place electrode on them is very difficult, obviously. So method of choice for the study of voice quality is to use the electroglottography, which is I already talked about that. You place two electrodes there, like that, and it allows a recording of the opening or closing of the vocal folds. It is relatively non-intrusive because it's just a lace to put around the neck, and it gives good results for the vocal folds. And of course, then something that you can do everywhere out of the lab, it's to use a microphone and maybe a video camera to record the production. As soon as we are interested in speech and emotion, there is a strong constraint on the naturalness of the production. And if you use such kind of recording settings, it's obviously very difficult to be natural. Okay, so most work dealing with the measure of emotional characteristics don't use such kind of intrusive settings. So we mostly rely on the measure of sounds via microphone, and if we are lucky, electroglottography, so EGG. There is even people who don't think you can't record any emotion inside the lab, so forgot EGG for some. Okay, so if we have an acoustic signal, and just that signal, what can we measure and how can we measure the voice quality and the change of voice quality that we have just described? Okay, the first and the main parameter to be measured for voice quality is the fundamental frequency, so the rate of vibration of the vocal folds. This can be measured quite reliably, we'll see that in detail later, from the speech signal, and especially if you record the electroglottograph. The second most important information is the intensity, which is linked to the effort, the intensity of the production, the vocal production. And if you combine these two information, fundamental frequency and intensity, you have a representation of a great deal of the variation that can be done through the voice. These representations are here the fundamental frequency and here the intensity. They are called phonetogram or vocal voice range profile, and they are generally used for musicians to record what they can produce with their voice. So you take a musician, you ask him to sing a given note, for example this one, and to sing it the lowest he can, with the lowest intensity he can, and to the higher intensity he can with the same notes. Okay? And you can see that there is a broad correlation between intensity and fundamental frequency. That means that you cannot produce a very high note with a very low intensity. It's just physically impossible. Okay? And also that, on the contrary, that you cannot produce a very low note, very low frequency, with a very high intensity. Of course, there is place for change inside. On this graph, there is two curves, one blue, one red. The blue curve is used to describe what is possible with a modal vibration of the vocal folds, the normal one, the one which is used mostly for speech. And the red is a description of what can be produced with the falsetto mode of vibration for voice vocal folds. So the falsetto is produced with thinner vocal folds, more tense, so you can produce higher voice and more intense voice slightly. So that's the reason why, for example, soprano mostly sing in a falsetto mode of vibration. And you see that these two modes have different possibility, but there is a wide covering. But if a soprano wants to make a very low note, she will have to change the mode of vibration of her vocal fold, and this can be heard if you don't take care to the way you do that. So one important thing for singer when they are trained is to learn to change the mode of vibration without it can be heard by the people. Okay. So these two measurements allows broadly to measure most of what we can observe. If we want to measure the strength of the voice, of the vocal effort, the acoustic measurement of choice is the measurement of intensity. Okay? But measure the intensity on an acoustic signal raises a number of problems, and we'll see why. So you have already heard that. There is no sound when it's too soft. It's really too soft.
She has left for a great party today.
And at the end, it's very...
She has left for a great party today!
So the main difference here is the intensity of the recording. The recording has been made, this recording has been made exactly the same situation for the three sentences. So intensity is a reliable measure of the vocal effort. But generally, when you take two different recordings in two different places, the microphone is not at the same position. And if I do that, he don't understand anymore. So just the change, the distance between the mouse and the microphone, just that make the intensity something that is not reliable. Moreover, you can change the level of recording when you record, and generally you cannot compare the intensity over two different recordings unless you take very strong, you make very careful recordings with the calibration of your recordings. But why can we still listen the difference in voice strengths in a recording, even in different recording, even if the sound is very low? For example, when I make you listen the shouted speech, I put down the volume because it would have been too strong, but you still listen, it is very shouted speech. And if I show you this example, you will listen the very soft voice because I have raised the volume at the maximum, and the three sounds are at the same intensity. And I hope it's okay.
She has left for a great party today.
She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today. She has left for a great party today.
So there is no difference in the mean intensity for each of these sounds, but you can hear very easily that one is done with a very soft voice and one is done very strong and shouted speech. Okay, so the intensity is not at all the only parameter that is used to perceive this voice strength. Okay, and the more vocal effort, the more wide the spectrum of the speech. And if we look at the spectrum of this sound we just heard, we obtain that. No. So here is the soft voice, and here is the very strong voices. Okay, what you can see, the main difference between this and this is that there is a very clear harmonic shape in this spectrum. You can see the harmonic there separated, and the strength of the harmonic is very high, whereas here the harmonic can just be seen there and the lowest of the spectrum, and most of the rest is noisy speech. So by looking at the spectrum of speech, you can infer a kind of measure of the vocal effort. It's simple to say, but it's more difficult to measure.
Excuse me, could you please turn? Okay. The red part, does it represent the intensity? The red part and the yellow part, the frequency?
No. So it's a spectrogram. Did everybody know
No,
how it works?
okay.
So
okay.
here you have the time, here the frequencies, and the color, the difference in color, indicate the strength of a given frequency at a given time. For example, if it's black, this frequency here is at 0 decibel. If it's slightly red, it's slightly higher, and the highest intensity for given frequency is in yellow. Okay, so this yellow part has the more intense parts, and they correspond to harmonic of the fundamental frequencies. Okay. Most generally, we used black and white spectrograms. Then, if we want to record aperiodicities, you remember that there is two kinds of aperiodicities. First one is aperiodicity in the vibration of vocal folds. For example, if I don't vibrate like that, but like that, it's not it's aperiodic. If I want to measure that, I will have to measure what we call the jitter. The jitter, it's the difference between the difference in time between two successive periods of vibration of the vocal folds. So, if I take two periods, if they are very different in length, there will be a high jitter. If they are exactly the same duration, there will be no jitter. It is a measure that had been introduced for measuring pathological voices, and it's a measure that it's very sensitive to use. It's very difficult to use it in speech because, for example, it's sensitive to a glissando. If I do ah, I have a vocal mode of vibration. So if I should have a very low jitter, but as I change my pitch, two successive periods of vibration are not of an equal length because it's more high pitched. So if you take a glissando even for a soprano or a very nice voice, it will have very high jitter if the glissando is very rapid. So if you measure jitter on something that is not flat, on a not flat pitch, it's not reliable to measure worseness of voice. So it's very difficult to use. Shimmer is very similar to jitter, so unless it measures difference in the amplitude of vibration. If the first period has an amplitude of, let's say like that, and the second is higher, you will have a strong shimmer. Okay. And another origin for the aperiodicities in speech is additive noise. When I do, for example, I produce a noise at the vocal folds, and this noise is aperiodic in nature, and you can listen to that. And to measure that, of course, you don't look at the vibration of the vocal folds because it's not produced by the vibration of vocal folds. You look at what is called the harmonicity of the signal. For example, the periodic-aperiodic ratio. So you try to measure. If I go back to that, this part has a very very low, periodic-aperiodic ratio because there is more noise in the aperiodic part and a few intensity on the periodic part, whereas here most of the intensity in the signal is on the harmonics. so on the harmonic part of the signal. So this one is even more periodic than that one. But so this one has a very high periodic-aperiodic ratio. This one has a very low one. So you can say that there is more brassy noise in that one. And obviously when I speak like that, I make a very strong breath. Okay. If you want to be very complete, you can try to measure all these acoustic measures, which are proposed by Christophe D'Alessandro. Some are parameters of the Lillian-Cron-Fonds model. For example, the open caution. Some are other kind of measure you can get from the signal. For example, the periodic-aperiodic ratio here. And for each of these measures, he relates them to a kind of voice quality. The problem is that they are very difficult to get from a speech signal. In fact, a source filter model is a very nice model for speech synthesis, as we have seen, but it's very difficult to use in analysis because you have to invert the process of the production of speech and to remove the effect of the vocal tract to get the vocal flow at the exit of the vocal fold. You have to cut the head, and cutting the head from using a signal is very, very difficult. So there is many people who try to do that, but most generally all the measures that are proposed are sensitive to, for example, the vowel that is produced. Okay. Then if we want to measure especially these supralaryngeal settings, so everything that is produced above the vocal folds, we can use a set of measures. So, for example, in the literature it is known that if you smile like that, the second formant will raise. If you compare normal speech and a smile speech, the second formant will raise slightly. Okay. If you make a protrusion, so if you speak like that, it will most generally lower the formant, and especially the third formant. It will, yes, generally lower all the formant, but it's mostly sensitive for the third one. But it will.
And what is the ratio of lowering of F3, F2, F1 with lip protrusion?
It's very difficult to say. The paper that describes such kind of thing are referred here. You can have a look at that. It's based on source filter model, but it's very difficult to have a very precise things, because of course when you make a protrusion, the size of the protrusion will change with many factors, and so it's very, very difficult. They have kind of idea that it tends to lower all the formant, but mostly this one. But of course it's not very easy to get. It's the problem with acoustic measures that they are very dependent of a lot of things, and if I smile slightly, or it will produce different effect, and moreover there is others things not on the lips but on the position of the tongues that are controlled together. A very well-known example for is to measure the formant in singing voice. When you have a soprano, she will raise her pitch very high, and her pitch will go above the first formant. So balance this, she will move her articulators, and she will raise the first formant so it follow the pitch, and her voice can still be understandable. So there is compensation when you make extreme voices, and this compensation makes things not very easy to measure, because of course it's not like a model. A model you can change just the lips. In the real life, if you change the lip, you also change other things. So it's tendencies, but it's difficult to. And on the other side, if you lower your larynx, it will change the F2 and 4, etc. But this is sensitive to vowels, of course. And the same thing, more open jaw will have a more high fundamental first formant, and you can obviously see that in the vowel triangle, that the first formant is linked with the jaw opening. So if you make an E and you open very much your mouth, it will rise the first formant. And then nasalization, it's a kind of a grail for people who make such kind of measures, but it's almost impossible to find very reliable things to measure the nasalization. There is many different proposals and many normalization, but so I have put a few possibilities, for example, lowered intensity of the first formant, etc. But I think it's not very really reliable. Okay. I think it's time to make a stop, and then we'll try to apply that. If you don't already download the data for the exercise, you can launch the download now. Miguel is supposed to have put somewhere an archive that contains sounds and small Pratt script that you can download. If you don't know where it is, it's there. You can ask me. There is an archive with sounds and Pratt scripts.
Are we going to use these archives or
Yes.
or actually any kind of archives? No, these specifically.
This one is, yes, I think.
All right.
So during a work for Japanese attitudes, so such kind of expression like politeness, etc., we record sentences, and we also record some grunts, some interjections, because they may be used in speech for Japanese. So this kind of grunts you have. So it's not words, it's just voice, but different depending of the expressions, and they have very extremes voice quality. So we'll train some kind of measurements, different kind of measurements on this voice quality, and you will see that sometimes we just cannot make it work. To apply this, you need Pratt, and then there is a set of small scripts that you can use to try this. So first, we'll try to record the most fundamental one, the fundamental frequency, which is the parameter for voice quality, the most important. Okay, so if you can launch Pratt, and you have a script which is called extract F0, and you can load it in Pratt, and then you will have to configure it a bit for the script to be able to find the sound where you put them. So first launch the script and then we'll see how it works. I just launch it also. So you should have something like that. Eh. So at the beginning there is a set of parameters that when you launch a script, and then the most important one is the path to the folder where you have these grunts. So if you go back to the, if you look on your folder, you have one directory which is called grunts, and in this directory there is many sounds.
Oh.
Okay, for example that one, or much more extremes.
Hey. Hey.
Okay. So, has everybody given the path to this folder, to his script, or in the script, the Pratt script? Here, in the beginning of the Pratt, you should specify the path to the grunt folder. Is it okay? Is it okay for everybody, or no? Maybe you can work with her. Where is the folder? Once you have changed the path and it goes to the script knows where the waves file are, so you can launch it, and by default it will load this wave file, which is a declarative sentence, and it will try to make a fundamental frequency analysis on that, which is quite simple because it's a simple sentence. Okay, and then it will print this one. There.
Posso tentar? Can I try to help them? Vocês estão com dificuldade de achar o endereço ali? Vocês têm que colocar o endereço do computador de vocês, onde vocês salvaram a pasta que ele passou, que tem os arquivos de áudio. Vai ser C/nome de vocês, documentos. Cada um salvou em algum diretório, tem que copiar esse endereço. Por exemplo, abre um arquivo de áudio ali, clica com o botão direito, tem propriedades, aí copia, vai ter C, // e o endereço de vocês. É aquilo que tem que copiar e colar ali. Oi? Dentro daquela pasta chamada grunts. Aí a gente vai escolher quais que vai abrir depois, pelo que eu entendi. O script vai rodar aqueles arquivos. Aí vai ter que cada um daquele .wave vai ser o arquivo que ele vai chamar ali.
To know the path of your folder, you open the folder in a window, and on the top of the window you have something like C. Okay, and you just copy that to the script. And you have to be aware that there is no space in the path, because if there is a space, the script won't run properly. When everybody has a working script, we can launch these scripts automatically on all the sound in the grunt folder. Obviously, when you run it, if I run, mine is more complete because I have the final script, but you will have an analysis of the fundamental frequency, which is made out of the voice and out of the electroglottogram recording of the voice. The red curves is calculated from the voice, and the blue points are extracted from the electroglottogram. When the speech is normal, for example, if it's just a declarative sentence, there is no problem. So for the first test, it's just an extraction of fundamental frequency, and it works, of course. And now if we launch the same script on all the files in the folder, you will see that for different kind of stimuli there will be problems, and there will be very different kind of problems, and we'll try to understand them and to make some correction to the script to have a good extraction of fundamental frequency, whatever the voice quality. Okay? So for launching the script automatically on the complete folder, you have another script which is called batch folder. And I hope it will work. Okay, this folder, this script takes into account so the folder, the same folder than in the preceding one, the path to the script that you just used, which generally is the same without the grunt at the end, and finally the path to the application, the Pratt application, which is located in different places depending of your computer. And then it will launch the script on each wave files. I'm very sorry for that. If you make a normal analysis on this file, you will have an analysis of the fundamental frequency, and you have the same if you got the analysis from the voice or from the electroglottogram, that is the electrodes that measure the vocal fold movement. Okay, that's for a simple sound like that.
Hey.
If you look for much more difficult sounds like that one, if you listen to that,
Yeah!
you can hear very easily that the voice is very, very different from the normal voice. Okay, it's male, and he speaks with a very, very high pitch.
Yeah!
Okay, so obviously the boundaries of fundamental frequency are not good, and here in the analysis you have an over and under harmonics that is selected in place of the fundamental frequency. Okay, and you can notice also something, that the electroglottograms, the blue dots, are not plotted there. So there is two problems for this kind of voice. The voice is very, very tense, and it has a quite low intensity. So if you look at the electroglottogram, you will see that the movement of the electroglottogram are just very teeny. So the default patterns, default parameters of the Pratt detection algorithm, F0 detection algorithm, are not good for detecting fundamental frequency using such kind of stimuli. Okay, so we can find, we can change a few parameters, and it will work. There is the example here. So here it's a sound for which the fundamental frequency works properly. We cannot listen. And here is this sound. Okay, so you have to change the parameter for detection and say that the upper limit of fundamental frequency is not 500 Hz but 1000 Hz because it traces over 900. And you have to say that the silence threshold being lower than the default silence threshold because the movement of the vocal fold are really tiny, something like that, just vibrate on the very small points, and on the EGGs there is a very small vibrations that are recorded. And if you do that, the detection is not anymore like that one, where it don't detect the EGG, but like the one you can see there. Okay, so that's the first example. And that's another example which has very different kind of voice quality. Okay, this is an expression of Kyoshoku, which is made with a breathy voice. So a breathy voice is a strong noise that the airflow going through the vocal folds is producing, and the vocal folds are vibrating but not on the whole length. And the problem here is different from the previous problem, because if you look at the here it's a corrected detection. If you look at the detection that is produced by the using the default parameters, the electroglottogram is okay because there is a vibration of the vocal folds, a nice vibration. But as you can see on the spectrograms, there is much noise there. So as there is too much noise, Pratt decides that this part is not voiced, and so there is no red curve there. There is no fundamental frequency detected. So you have to change for the voice the parameter so the voicing threshold is lower, and that there is a low octave jump cost, so you don't find very high or very low frequencies. Okay. The third kind of problem is more tricky. It's for such kind of voice. Okay. The voice is very strong, but you can listen to irregularities in the voice, in the vibration of the vocal folds. Okay. Very strong irregularities, and these irregularities are difficult to detect because fundamental frequency detector is aimed at detecting regularities. So here there is no really good solutions. If you have recorded the electroglottogram, you can find a very nice curve in blue, but at least for me, I tried different kind of parameters, but I can never detect this fundamental frequency. The only thing I managed to find is 1 octave down the real fundamental frequency. So if we look at what looks like such kind of signal, there is here it is a zoom on this part. Okay, for the electroglottogram recording. Okay, and you can see that the fundamental frequency detectors labels only one vibration out of two. Okay, because the fundamental frequency, the vocal folds vibrate like that in two parts of their length. So the algorithm for detection, and they have different shapes, so he finds only one of these vibrations and not the two. It's called a diplophonic voice. It's very difficult to analyze automatically. But there is a solution. It's to make an hand correction of the detection. Pratt provides such kind of interface where you can choose the good candidates among all the candidates that he has found automatically. And generally, for the recording we had previously here, he found one which is very low, and then by hand you have to correct that to follow the good fundamental frequency. Okay, then if you don't want to lose what you done by hand, you can save the result in a pitch file and continue with your analysis. Okay, I think we are almost done for today. I will try to make this program run on a Windows computer for tomorrow, so we can launch it on the complete folder and discuss the analysis of the other voice parameters tomorrow, and then we'll start to make modifications of the prosodic settings.